Hi everyone, thank you for taking the time to visit my poster. My name is Chris Free and I'm going to take the next 5 to 6 minutes to talk to you about some work I did looking at microplastic pollution in a large remote mountain lake in northern Mongolia. As you all know, microplastic pollution is a hot topic in ocean conservation right now, so much so that we have an entire session at Ocean Sciences dedicated to discussing the dynamics and impacts of microplastic pollution in the marine environment. Although we still have a lot to learn, the fact remains the huge body of work has focused on marine microplastics, while comparatively little has been done in the freshwater environment. In fact, to date, only 4 lakes in the world have been surveyed for pelagic microplastics: Lakes Erie, Superior, and Huron in the U.S. Laurentian Great Lakes, and Lake Geneva in Switzerland. These studies have been very informative, but all 4 lakes are highly developed and have industrial sources of plastic pollution. Remote lakes without much development or industrial activity are likely to have very different patterns of pollution. It's important to understand the dynamics of plastic pollution in these systems in order to direct targeted preventative measures and cleanup activities. We conducted surveys for pelagic microplastics and beach macroplastics at Lake Hovsgol National Park in Mongolia. Lake Hovsgol is the 19th largest lake in the world by volume and is characterized by low population density and a lack of industry and agriculture. Still, without a waste management system, its small permanent population and growing tourist community generate a disproportionately large volume of improperly disposed of trash, and the lake is a likely candidate for microplastic pollution. So what did we do? We used a manta trawl to sample microplastics along 9 transects evenly distributed around the lake and counted the number of microplastic particles in each sample by size, class, and type. Types included hard, jagged fragments that come from thicker, sturdier plastics, small round pellets that may have industrial origins, thin films like those of wrappers or plastic bags, lines and fibers from monofilament fishing line or clothing, and foam. To survey beach macroplastics, we simply walked the shoreline along 14 evenly distributed transects, collecting all of the anthropogenic debris between the waterline and the rack line, which we later counted, weighed, and categorized by type. In the bottom left, we have a picture of the manta trawl deployed with the Cyan Mountains in the background, and a picture of a fairly representative shoreline from the northwestern corner of the lake. Also note that as we move through the poster, red designates results pertaining to pelagic microplastics, and purple designates results pertaining to the beach macroplastics. Up here, we have a map of Lake Hovsgol showing all of the potential sources of pollution. We have the town of Hovsgol in the south, and Hank in the north, and a series of tourist camps on the southwestern shore. We have 2 very primitive roads which run up and down the eastern and western shores, where herding families live very sporadically, and we have almost 100 streams that flow into the lake seasonally. The red dots represent the pelagic microplastic transects, and the purple dots represent the beach macroplastic transects. What you can see here is that microplastic density decreases with distance from the town and tourist camps on the southwestern shore, and is distributed to the eastern shore by the southwesterly prevailing winds. Down here in red, we see that fragments, films, and lines and fibers dominate the microplastic samples. Note that we observed very few pellets and no plastic microbleeds, which were dominant in the Great Lakes and abundant in the oceans. In purple, we see that plastics dominated the beach debris. This is especially true when you consider that the majority of the fishing and foam debris are also made of plastic. If we break these beach plastic debris down further, we see that plastic bottles, fishing gear, and plastic bags, all basic household items, constitute the majority of shoreline plastic debris. The miscellaneous category includes plastic wrappers, clothing, and a whole bunch of other unidentifiable plastic fragments. So what did we learn from all of this? It turns out that despite its remoteness, protected status, and low population density, Lake Hovsgol is more heavily polluted with microplastic pollution than the much more densely populated and developed Lakes Huron and Lake Superior. 3 million people live within the Lake Huron Basin. 6,000 people live within the Lake Hovsgol Basin, yet Lake Hovsgol is significantly more polluted. There are a lot of things at play here. First, Lake Hovsgol may retain more of its plastic because of its long residence time. Second, the sheer size of Lake Huron may dilute its plastic input relative to the considerably smaller Lake Hovsgol, given that buoyant microplastics remain on the surface and are a largely two-dimensional problem. Finally, although Lake Superior has industrial and agricultural pollution and runoff from impervious surfaces and wastewater treatment facilities, it has a modern waste management system. At Lake Hovsgol, the best thing that can happen to a piece of trash is that it gets burnt. As a result, the majority of trash goes into the lake. Thus, these results outline the major differences in the pathways to pollution in densely populated and developed lakes versus sparsely populated and undeveloped lakes. Whereas the majority of plastic pollution in developed lakes may come from industrial, agricultural, or urban sources, plastic pollution at Lake Hovsgol and other undeveloped lakes originates at the household level. Thus, if you take anything away from this video, let it be that without proper waste management, plastics pervade and persist in freshwater systems in even the most remote parts of the world. I've gone on a little bit longer than anticipated and will leave you here. In this next section, which you can read on your own, I list some broad questions to help guide future research into the plastic pollution in freshwater systems. Thanks again for visiting my poster or otherwise finding this video. Please contact me if you have any questions.